Last week, Glenn Beck asked a question that quite literally shook the world. He asked that question of Debra Medina. Here it is.
When I said that I was going to have you on, you can't imagine the mail, pro and con, that I received. There was a theme that ran against you, and that is you're a 9/11 truther.
Well, there's lots of mud that people would like to throw at Debra Medina and make stick. The truth is, I'm an everyday, ordinary person.
That was the question. The interview ended with this.
Okay, Deborah, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, Glenn.
You bet. Bye-bye. I think
problematic.
While I don't endorse anyone, I think I can write her off the list. Let me take another look at Kay Bailey Hutchinson if I have to. Rick, I think you and I could French kiss right now.
Let me tell you something. He's a damn handsome man.
He's a damn handsome man.
Yeah, okay, so we've heard that too. I got an email from somebody, and I checked it out. And then I checked it out again, and then I checked it out again. And this particular email and the subsequent work that I did on it takes us back to 2009, September, in fact, to a different conversation that Glenn Beck was having with a different group of people. These were 9/11 truthers. And he interviewed them. They're called the Jersey Girls. They have very good questions. And Glenn Beck had this to say when he interviewed those people.
I have questions myself. I had many questions after 9/11. I'd like to know about the whole Sandy Berger thing. That just seems weird, and it seems to me that Bush and Clinton were in on that one, both sides. I'd like to know about that one. You have a right to peacefully, reasonably question your government. You have a responsibility to do that.
That was not edited. It was not taken out of context, except, of course, that we didn't start from the very beginning of the show in September all the way through. This is something that I'm going to keep this very simple. All right? We just heard what he said regarding 9/11. He said essentially exactly what Debra Medina said. Can we play that one, please? Would you work with Phil on getting that one on the air? So these are the things that we're trying to get this taken care of. Now, this was from last September. Once again, the first cut was him saying that he had questions, too, about 9/11. He had questions. Why did Sandy Berger go back into the National Archives and take stuff out and get caught for it and lose his security clearance for a year? These are things that need to be brought up. At the end of the interview, what he says was, do we have this yet? Have we got it? Okay, go ahead and play it.
If you believe that about your government, wouldn't you want to find out who in our government was trying to kill innocent Americans? 3,000 innocent Americans? Wouldn't that be a top priority?
Yeah, it would be a top priority. So why haven't we done more with that, Glenn? Why did we morph from talking about this at in September as something that was viable and turned it into a parlor joke when Debra Medina said the same things you said in September? Let me give this back to you, a shortened version of the first thing I played for you.
You have a right to peacefully, reasonably question your government. You have a responsibility to do that.
Is that not what Debra Medina said? Is that not what Debra Medina did? The reason I wanted to make this very clear is because Glenn has changed his position. What changed his position? Why did he become a different guy completely? Now, once again, there are going to be arguments that this was all taken out of context, John David. What the heck are you doing? I saw the videotape myself. He talks about it. It's unedited. He says that you have the right to question your government, which was the reason that Debra Medina answered the way she answered. And what ended up happening had Glenn Beck actually talked to himself in both of those interviews, then what would have ended up happening was he would have had to deride himself in a cynical and sloppy fashion. One of the hardest things to do about, as I am now going to give Glenn Beck an excuse, one of the hardest things to do when you are doing this job is to be consistent. They're called logic traps. You say one thing and then somebody brings you back a tape from what you said 2 months ago that's completely different than what you said about 15 minutes ago. And the only way to combat that is to be honest and truthful. That's it. That's the only thing you can do. That way you don't have to figure out what you said to one group of people at one time. You don't have to worry about what you said. You don't have to worry about what lie you have to cover. You just tell the truth. Now, I don't like to pile on Glenn Beck. I like Glenn Beck. He's an amazing broadcaster. This is a mistake, and people get to make mistakes. And by the way, I've been spending a lot of time talking about people making mistakes and saying the wrong things on their shows and when they have opportunities to be on their shows. I do. I make mistakes. But you needed to know that. Because based on that interview, Glenn Beck, who has some sway around the United States of America, made Debra Medina look like an idiot. I wonder what he would have done had he interviewed himself. Think about this for a minute. Tell me what you think about it. Let's chat. Glenn Beck. Is Glenn Beck a truther? Is Glenn Beck the very person that he made fun of Debra Medina for being? You're listening to the